Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby. Today I am very excited to have in the studio someone who, I can't remember when we started talking about this, but I was looking at my LinkedIn and I think we bumped into each other in Trade Tech many years ago.
Yep.
And I thought, right, this would be someone who'd be great to have on it. You were the star of Trade Tech that year again. There's lots of conversations happening and we've taken ages and ages and ages to finally get you in the studio. But Matt, it is absolutely wonderful to have you in here. How are you?
Great to be here. Very well indeed. Happy to be in your studio again.
So as we said, it is one of those things there where I think you've been if you look at most industry events, you're going to be up there sometime on a panel speaking or somewhere involved in the whole thing. A great track record that you've got there, Chief Commercial Officer, Partner, Fund Manager, all of these sort of a glamorous backstory to where you're at that leads us here today. You're talking all over the world at the moment at some really cool things, doing some cool stuff at the same time as well.
Yep.
You've made your name across the industry, but I know that you've been talking a lot recently about sort of tech and transformation. We're going to be diving into that a little bit more, talking about leadership in general. I know we've been speaking a little bit about the Middle East and opportunities out there recently and what's happening there. So this isn't going to be a one with a shorter conversation for
probably
the next
not.
half hour or so. So with no further ado, let's just give us a little bit of that background. I've given you a little bit of a knees up there, but tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, more than happy to. And again, I'm not sure it's been glamorous over the last few years, to be honest, as much as you said it. But listen, it's been a great few years. But it goes like that. I think like anybody's career, you think actually you still feel like you just started the industry, and then 23 years goes past very quickly. But so originally back in the day, I was an economist, all by training, and I was at HM Treasury, the government, for about a year, which was really interesting. And then went to credit fund management at AIG, and then went from the credit side, fund management long only, to a hedge fund, a company called Rab Capital, which at the time was the #1 hedge fund in the world. Really interesting place, 7.2 billion. So then I did equity trading. So I had that whole multi-asset view of the world, which was very, very different, I must say. And then from there I went to Legal & General for a while, and I went to Lion Trust, where we grew it. I think we had about $5 billion and grew to pretty intra-month peak of about 50 billion, I think was the peak, which is really great fun. So, and that was both on the trading side, fund management side, and then I was Chief Commercial Officer as well towards the end. So really good fun, and now that's where we've got to now.
And so we suddenly sit here now, as you say, talking a lot about things which excite you, things which are happening in the marketplace, and I feel like there's probably never been an area of such innovation and movement in a space and opportunity that sort of comes in alongside that.
Definitely.
We were talking before we came on about the difference between sort of cost decisions and growth decisions and the general sort of world of tech and transformation. So I want to throw a sort of massive subject up for you to kick off with.
Go for it.
Tell us your thoughts on what's happening in the space at the moment, where the opportunities lie within sort of tech and I guess wider tech and even moving into the AI world.
Yeah, I think there's probably never been a more exciting time, right? I think it's incredibly exciting, the opportunities that technology and AI are bringing to the market. In fact, the whole world, every single industry is going to be touched by this. And it's really quite exciting. So, I mean, about 18 months ago or so, I was one of the leaders in redesigning our entire technology operating model in my last firm. And that really brought about scalability. So we had a phenomenal run, as I said previously, before I left, and then we thought actually we wanted to be more scalable and see what we could do next. So I was tasked with co-leading on that platform, and that was across sorting your data out and having a cloud native data solution to power the whole business. Then an order management system to enable the investment managers to do their jobs, having risk and performance embedded in there. So again, coming back to that scalability. And then we had an execution management platform put on top of that, and that had great interoperability, just using all the buzzwords at the moment here. Again, then you've got to make sure you've got the compliance side, and the most important people are the clients as well. So that very well scalable client and regulatory reporting was on there. And then you're really scalable, right? So you mentioned right at the beginning, I think it's a great point about when people look at technology, when they look at their operating models, updating that, is that a cost decision? Some people look at it that way, but I say this is a business decision, right? And so if you can't scale your operating model, then you can't scale your entire business. So you need those solutions to be in place. And I think that having the right technology, having the right data, that then enables you to really leverage AI, which everyone's talking about in multiple different levels. So until you've got your operating model and data platform in the right format, which is not particularly easy, by the way, then you are a little bit hamstrung and chasing your tail a bit to try and get onto the AI bandwagon. I think every CEO, every COO wants to say that they're really embracing AI and putting it into their businesses, but unless you've got your data sorted, it's a challenge.
It's a really interesting piece you say there, because there lies the crux of it, right? There's a lot of boardroom chatter that talks about, right, AI's here, it's going to revolutionise every industry, it's going to revolutionise our business, we're going to get massive productivity upticks, we're going to get massive efficiencies, we're going to reduce cost, increase speed, everything else around that sort of thing. But then alongside all of that rhetoric and talk, the actual movement to see what's happening is a different matter. And particularly when you're talking about a very regulated industry, it's not quite as easy as just saying this is what we're going to do and where we're going to come through from. And I think the sort of crux of it comes through, as you rightly say, from making sure those foundations are in place. That data is absolutely sacrosanct and correct, and the whole concept of garbage in, garbage out is something that's been said on stages that we'll have seen all over the world.
Definitely.
Together.
Yeah, I've probably used that phrase a couple of times.
Exactly. But it makes absolute sense, right? So when you're looking at that and you're thinking, right, how do I create that scalability? And I think this is a really interesting bit, because there's so many funds, as you say, who are there at an interesting inflection point at the moment. It's a much more fragmented area. I think AI and general technology. So let's leave AI out that conversation. But technology has made it much more of a level playing field. It's made it much more able for smaller players to come in there and scale at pace. But scaling at pace is something which a lot of people get wrong, and they get wrong because they sort of keep what's got us here is now not necessarily right for that. And at various different stages of your business, various different stages of things, which sounds very obvious, there's different challenges and different needs to come through, and it's got to be a lot more manicured, I think, to an extent, to get things right on that. That's a journey you've been on, which I think is fascinating, gives you a sort of really unique insight into what worked, what didn't work, etc., etc., particularly from a tech and transformation background.
Yes.
I love the sort of concept of hearts and minds with transformation. I also, am very aware of the fact that the C-suite and tech transformation are obviously sort of strange bedfellows at various different stages, and actually getting them as closely linked as possible, creates more opportunity for success.
Definitely.
So just share a little bit of that sort of, that story of how you've managed that and some of the successes you had with it.
Of course, I think actually there's a phrase I've been saying for a while, like, is strategy driving technology, or is technology driving strategy? And now they are exactly the same. If not, technology is kind of slightly leading that route. So I think that's really, really exciting. Your point on kind of the C-suite and then the technology teams being kind of separate, that can't happen nowadays, right? That has to be fully integrated. There can't be that conflict, which is not easy, because you have to remember, as much as we're talking about technology, AI, you've got human beings involved, right? And every human being, whether they think so or not, have some kind of ego, right? And having those clashes.
It's not an industry that's free of ego.
What are you trying to say about finance? No, I think any company will have that, right? And people have got control of one area. They also don't want to be told what to do by another area. But you've got to have that culture of collaboration, right? We're going to be better together. We want to constantly look to improve. And this is a great opportunity to do it. And you mentioned technology leveling the playing field. And sometimes I'd even be a little bit worried if you're a massive, giant behemoth organization, because you've got such legacy tech stacks.
Exactly.
And
it's difficult to shift them.
It's difficult to shift them. It's expensive. Don't get me wrong, they've probably got the revenues and they're able to shift them. But it takes longer. You've got to bring the people on the journey with you, because a lot of people have been in there for a very long time, potentially. If you're a very big organization, they're used to their workflows. People might not like change, and I think that can be true to lots of different organizations. But it's hard. And then you're competing with startups who are really agile. They've got relatively low cost bases, their technology. They can build an infrastructure that's right for what the market needs right now. Right. So
digital
I think we
first, AI first, tech first,
cloud first, exactly. And then then you're scalable. Rather than having to rip everything out. Which is not easy, right? And you've still got to keep servicing your clients.
Absolutely.
Still going to make sure the regulatory side of things well taken care of. Still don't want to upset your entire staff. Right? Because then that doesn't help anybody. So
stakeholders are massively important.
Those stakeholders are big. It's not easy. But if you're startup, it's like, oh, we're going to build it now, right? And everyone wants to come on that journey. It's like, this is innovative, this is cool, it's easier. So managing that transition, it's not easy, but it can be done. You can do that with the right communication within a big organization. Communication is key. And one of the key things, I mean, we're talking about tech and AI and operating model redesign and my experience with that, but the people side of things is really important. There's a difference in integration of tech and real adoption.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You can put any platform into a business, whether anyone's going to use it properly or not, past the first couple of weeks or parallel run, is a very different matter. But you've also got to understand what they want. What do your staff need, right? Make sure you're getting the right technology to along that journey, of course. And also think, how's that going to benefit our client? And that gets forgotten a lot in this business. That, we need to be more efficient, we need to sound clever because we're using the latest technology. How's that going to benefit the client? Don't forget that really important part of the equation.
I love that, and I love the fact that there is so much that resonates with me about how people adopt technology into their business, and quite often it can be a sort of C-suite that's sold to by a really dynamic, game-changing piece of technology. And it's then you're talking about people who sometimes are a little bit further away than the people who are actually going to be utilising that technology. And it's like, right, here's the workflow. How does it? We can see the efficiencies, we can see the speed, but actually it's like, right, how are we actually going to make sure that that's really adopted? We've made the same issues in our business. We brought in some technology that on the surface of it sounded fantastic. Hadn't spent enough time winning the hearts and minds, or actually courting the opinions, if I'm brutally honest with myself about that sort of stuff, and end up with something there that in theory looked great, and I could go back to the theory, but in practice, was it actually going to be utilised, and was it a process that can go through? And I think
I'm sure it sounded great in marketing as well. If you would say, we've got this lovely brand new platform that we're scalable, we can look at every single CV in your business, for example, it's great marketing. Never fall into that trap. Just doing it for marketing. Exactly. Like, this will sound great. It's like, it doesn't last very long because you won't have it for long. But sorry.
So let's take it back into your business, because you're exactly right. There's a lot of that, and I think one thing that you've got a really great view of is those partnerships, those tech, those vendor relationships you're dealing with. I think that's such an important part of that to get that right. And there's so many people. When you were talking about the position you've been in, going on the story you've been in, there's going to be a lot of people wanting to throw their wares at you and make sure that that's right. Tell me about what makes a vendor investable, and more to the point, that process of them making sure that adoption's absolutely on point, so that the client wins at the end of the day with it.
Yeah, I think it comes again with experience as well. So we were talking about trade tech earlier, and having done that for many years when I had no grey hairs whatsoever, you have a very good idea about what firms are like, and you're constantly speaking to people in the community about, we took this and it was actually really, really challenging. It looked great, but no integration support, or we had it and then it was great, but then it never innovated. So experience is very important. You have a really good idea about company cultures, the type of vendors that you might want to engage with. What do you want though from what's the right vendor for on the tech side, for example? I mean, you just want them to be aligned with you. Right? You're like, what do you want to do? I want to be innovative. I want to be constantly pushing the boundaries. How can we be better, faster, quicker, smarter? I want somebody that's trying to do that as well. So otherwise, you're not going to work very well together, right? If they're very happy just sitting on their platform that they provided and this is great, we'll change things now and again, but this is basically going to be 99% of what you're going to get in the product. I'm going to struggle, to be honest with that. I want somebody who's always trying to get better. What can we do differently? Because I mean, you've got the whole digital explosion of digital assets nowadays, right? A completely different asset class that didn't exist 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
So can your platform all of a sudden, I've been talking to a few CEOs about this, can your platform suddenly support digital assets? Can you work with cryptocurrencies? Can you work with stable coins? Can you work with tokenization of portfolios and funds? How does that work, right? And even then it goes back to, can your custodians work with that? Can your PBs and the hedge fund side work with that as well? So like, have you got the ability to be innovative, to see what's coming and actually really invest? Have you got that mind? Right? Are you constantly cutting costs? Or do you want to invest for the future and keep going? Because in my mind, that's the only way to be sustainable as a business. Constantly be trying to think, what's next? How can we be better? How can we be faster, smarter? Otherwise, you're not really going to be a sustainable business. You're not going to be a viable strategic partner for firms, basically that I'll be working with.
I think this is really interesting for me, because I spoke about this the other day. The last 5 years, in particular, 5-6 years, have been really transformational for that. And I think if you look at the vendor world pre-COVID,
Yep.
yeah, there was something there where it was like, this is what we do, and this is our product, and this is our service, and you kind of build it into what you build it into you work around it. This is what we do. You have to work with what we do.
Yes.
And the innovation in the space was there, but it wasn't sort of accelerating at the sort of pace which we've seen over the last 5-6 years in particular. And I think COVID allowed the conversation to turn from what in the tech world, I think pivoting, in fact I know pivoting was seen as a dirty word. Pivoting in tech was, we've made a mistake, we now need to change and be something else and rechange our brand. Whereas now what you're seeing is companies, even some of the bigger vendors who've been out there for a long, long time, recognizing that they have to and have the ability to chop and change and listen. And that partnership between end user and vendor, I think, has never been stronger at the moment, because it's kind of like a collaborative work to say, this is where we want to go, this is what we want to do. But you're absolutely right. When you're sat there and you're thinking, right, what do we want from one of our vendors? What do we want from that partnership? Do they match our intentions and intent? And can we have that sort of almost like it goes back to the debate on an event later this week about buy and build.
Yes.
I think that whole buy and build rather than buy or build conversation has created that sort of platform, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a phrase I've used. You probably heard me say it on a panel at Trade Tech, actually, that buy and build. But it's that collaboration again. I've worked with vendors which I've kind of co-developed their automated trading platform, for example. They didn't have that. I'm like, which fields do you want to use? Well, actually, you'll probably think about market cap, and then you think about some clustering data and tick sizes and things like that, which it's not, they might be tech vendors, but they're not in the market themselves. They're not end users. But I've collaborated to help them do that. Sadly, I should have taken a fee, but I didn't totally. But that's
not too late.
Exactly. I'll write the email now. But that's the collaboration you want. And from their side as well. I mean, what kind of client do you want to work with? Do you want to work with just a real pain who's actually, now the platform we've upgraded it, so you need to upgrade as well because you're like the last person on the old platform, and they're very slow to do that. I can imagine that being quite difficult from the other way around. And again, you mentioned about listening. So I constantly want to listen to the end client. What do you want? What do you need? How do you want to be serviced? What innovations are you thinking about? Because it's the most important thing. Right? It's the most important thing. So if I'm thinking, right, well, I want to invest in AI and I can have a self-service model for distribution. They can get their own data from the portal or a website that I bring, and it's all compliance friendly. Do they want that? Or do you want to reach out to a salesperson you've got a great trusting relationship, and the salesperson can leverage this technology that you provide? What do they want? Sometimes don't try and be too clever. Right? You think, do you know what? You can give them both options if they want. It's up to them. But have that constant listening feedback. Is that right? Most people think they're quite smart and quite clever, and we've got lots of very smart people in our industry. But sometimes you've got to just see where the demand is. Right? Because there have been a lot over the years of products. And products within, like tech products, but products within exchanges as well, and funds as well, that we think they want that. One client said they were quite interested. You build it, spend a lot of money. It's not really fit for purpose. There's not a lot of demand past that one person that said, that's quite nice, and they weren't bothered as well, right? So if you give a client the option, we're thinking about buying this, they'll be like, yeah, that sounds good. Or thinking about building this, yeah, that sounds good. They've got a free option, right? So, yeah, sounds good. And then you spent, I don't know, however much money building it, and probably not great for us right now. And it's not scalable across the rest of the market either. There have been a lot of product, again, on exchanges, funds, and technology that do that. But if you can keep listening to your clients, see what they want, see where their needs are. Because I think we've gone beyond products nowadays. It's about client solutions. Right? It's all about client solutions rather than, this is a great product, you should buy it. I thought, actually, what do you need? We should build it. It's like the opposite way around. So I think if you tackle it from there, you'll still go wrong now and again, but you can't go that far wrong. If you've got
that's all the way through the cycle as well, isn't it? As you're talking about, right, what tech do I actually need to make sure it's servicing the best interests of my customers, making my team as efficient as possible? It's those multi-stakeholders in the process which you're talking about, because there's so many different options. And as you say, look, where you're able to influence and adapt and do it, the best partnership I ever had was with a business there that we were the client number 2, and we helped them grow the product, and it was an amazing relationship all the way through it, where it sort of said, look, this is exactly what we wanted to do and how we could do that, and they spent loads of time investing into our business at the same time as doing that. And there's other ones where we come in there and it's just been, right, we've sold the product and now you get on with it and utilise it. And it's never the right way of doing it. It seems so obvious, doesn't it?
It does. It doesn't, especially in hindsight when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't, or it's actually fine, but it doesn't last very long, right? Because there's another thing on the horizon.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting play. That sort of circles us back into the sort of AI conversation because that is where there is so much opportunity to do things at pace and at scale.
Yep.
When you're thinking about the potential of it, and as we said at the start, every boardroom at the moment wants to win the AI race, wants to be relevant, wants to be in that sort of conversation. At the same sort of time, to me, it feels a lot more posturing than actually, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're doing it and this is why it's going to make us win. And so, and mainly because of that, as I said, it's a world where, and an industry where you can't get it too wrong and you can't be approximately right, as I've spoken about a couple of times on this show. It's got to be absolutely on point. So when you're dealing with that sort of area, I mean, before we came on, and then you touched on it a little bit beforehand about getting the foundations of the house in play. Give us a little bit more of your worldview of AI and how it can really practically get ingrained into the industry and what that looks like and where you think the future of that goes.
Yeah, of course. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of talk of it, not as much adoption as you probably hear in the media, right? But people are all getting ready to adopt it. They're working very hard, and if you already redesign your operating model, then great, and your data's in a good spot. So actually, you can adopt it a bit faster. Yeah. Most places haven't, and data's tough, as we always said. So it's a pain. It's not a glamorous topic to discuss, but it's a prerequisite. Then get onto the more glamorous, fun stuff, right? And leverage that AI. So again, the way I mentioned, I kind of view it very basically is I see it AI as a house. So you've got your data as your foundation, and that's your like a cloud native data solution that can power your business. On top of that, then level one, you can get on the ground floor, should I say, you get your efficiencies. And you can start at that level. You can't jump to do everything at the same time once your data's sorted, by the way, right? There's lots of learnings along that way. But then you can get your efficiencies, which is a lot of the headlines taking that at the moment. Then you get your hyper-personalization. I see that as being internal first and a big part of that kind of alpha generation, potentially, with your investment research on the qualitative side, on the quantitative side too. Then you can have next part of hyper-personalization, external. But it has to be right if it's leaving the door, as you just said, right? It has to be compliance proof. It has to be locked down. Then it's scalable. Yeah. So you can't sort of load the data and it's all right. It needs to be 100%. As you said, it can't be nearly right. Because we've got a regulator that probably won't look very well with that, to be honest. So
they tried.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're not that sympathetic.
These fines are going to come at some point to some people if you get it wrong. So you get that side of things, and then perhaps the roof is that real portfolio optimization. Yeah. But I also see a great opportunity to improve the human in this as well. Yeah. Because there's lots of different behavior types that is really hard to see with the human eye and to pick up on. It's all in the data. I love data. It's so honestly, it's sad, but it's exciting at the same time. But you can get those insights.
I think we've spoken about some of the football books we've read before.
Oh my God!
The whole thing where data comes in.
My wife laughs at me. My beach reading is econometric testing on football statistics. I need to get out more.
I've done the same holiday reading. I looked at yours last time out and thought, this is tick, tick, tick. Well, I got that one.
Done. A couple of high performance books in there as well. Exactly. I'll read a story one day. But so I think that's really. I think you can look at potentially fund manager behaviour really scalably. Are you cutting your losses too early? Are you running your winners too long? What are you doing? But there's lots of anecdotal things where he's like, I should have done that in hindsight, but you got the data. Every single timestamp, millisecond, orders raised. Was it down to cash flow? Was it actually an investment decision? You've got it all. Yeah. It's there. It's in the building. Yeah. And I would love to just constantly improve.
Well, there's been tech around this for a long time, hasn't there? And I remember having someone on the show very early on who's built a business, a good business, which is, in my mind, it's the same sort of conversation as going back to the sporting aspect of it all, is you're looking about performance data to make someone make the right run at the right time, to score the goal, to score the try, to make the 3 points, whatever it is. It's all about the efficiency of where people are going at the right sort of stage. And her technology was all about making sure when was the right time to invest, when should people be on, when should people be off, where are they playing at their peak, et cetera, et cetera. And that sort of behavioural analytics piece, I think such an interesting sort of play to see how the human gets augmented in this industry.
Definitely.
And when you're talking about that being the genuine thing of where I get excited about AI, the excitement about AI for me isn't about cost reduction, because there's only so much cost reduction that you can do. It's great to have efficiencies, it's great to reduce cost, it always will be. But we're in a position where everyone's been cutting costs for the last 10, 15 years.
Yep.
Probably, or even longer, since 2008, it's all been about reducing costs, right? So my view is that what we've got to be relentlessly focused on is about increasing productivity, because there's only so much cost cutting you can do, but there is always space on the upside about what you can do with that. And it takes a while for that penny to sort of drop, but where does all this come into, and how does it make sure that you're getting more out of everyone? If everyone's doing that, that's a really exciting place, I think, for us to be within it. And I think this is the opportunity to come into that. The other part of it is about globalization.
Yep.
And I know that one of the things you've been doing a lot of at the moment is checking out the Middle East and doing some time out there. So when you look at the whole opportunity on a global scale, I know that's the bit which you're particularly excited about at the moment. What's it looking like there?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just going back to that AI point, it is that opportunity. That's the key word. People are like, cost savings, that's the opportunity. What other opportunities are open for the business?
Yeah.
Do you know what, we couldn't have even opened up in this asset class previously, but now we've got this technology and AI, now we can.
Yeah.
Great, right? That's the exciting part. I always put it that bond fund managers are always looking down and thinking what can go wrong, right? And then equity fund manager always looking up, how much can I make? It's a little bit like that, right? So cost efficiency is looking down, but the opportunities kind of unlimited are going up, basically. But I think probably maybe going back to the Middle East, and I said I spent more than a month there this year already, and I'm out before the end of the year again. It's that opportunity.
That's it.
The growth opportunity is so exciting.
365 tan, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I think that's just stress. But no, I think that the growth opportunity is really, really exciting. Yeah. And you've already seen loads of asset managers set up there. A really, really high number of hedge funds as well, and that's from the big behemoth multi-strats and also startups as well. Yeah. And that's because they've made it a really business-friendly environment. Yeah. And they're partnering with the regulator to say, actually, this would make things a lot easier, but it's also really sensible on the compliance side, and they will partner, right? It's a bit like strategic partnerships. So that's enabling business. They're basically like, how can we help you out there to enable business, which is really exciting. And they've got that mandate to do that. And they've got Vision 2030 in Saudi, another Vision 2030, another Vision 2031. They're working very hard at it, and the development's been incredible. And you've probably seen data on how many people have moved from the UK into the Middle East as well. Yeah. It's the opportunity. But I think people say that the tax gets the headline, but for me, it's the opportunity. Yeah. It's in a phenomenal growth environment. Yeah. And that business-friendly environment. It really is. I've never seen anything like it. It reminds me very much of kind of Hong Kong, Singapore 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So what can we do? The opportunity is unrivaled. So the heat might be similar as well sometimes. Yeah. But it's exciting. And also they're investing so heavily in technology there. Yeah. They've got AI campuses. And that's where everything we talked about already today, it's like, that's where the market's going. They want to be leaders in that. They have great opportunities, great opportunities to be had. And if you're a global business, then it's nearly a no-brainer from my standpoint to have an entity there. Yeah. And again, you're also, if you're based in Europe or London, then you're kind of halfway towards Asia, where again, it's a phenomenal growth opportunity. There were emerging markets out there many years ago, and now they're not developed, but they're developing. Yeah. So the risk's a lot lower. Yeah. Return potentially a lot higher. Yeah. So I think it's just in between that, I'm constantly thinking of the technology side, but also the business opportunity, the client side, the investment return side. It's a great place to be that enables so much of that at the moment. It's kind of a hotbed of development and change.
And I think that sort of gives us a sort of, you've had this really interesting view over the last few months where you've been spending a lot of time working with companies, advising companies, taking in this sort of global, looking at that word, opportunity. So if you're sat there and you're saying, look, the general strategic advisory piece that you're doing, the people you're talking to, the sort of strategic partnerships that you've been sort of out there and looking at within there, what's the sort of general temperature check of what you've been seeing?
Change and transformation. Yeah. So I'm working with a company called Prospera. Actually, it was a friend of mine. We did an economics degree together. He works at HR and Treasury. He's out in Singapore, and we've known each other for many years. And he said, "Listen, what you've done is mildly impressive. But he said, actually, that is really relevant to what loads of their clients and his friends and his colleagues in Singapore and Hong Kong are trying to do. Yeah. And that's helping smaller, mid-size, actually even large asset managers and hedge funds step back and say, actually, how can we really grow? Yeah. How can we improve our operating model? How can we be more scalable? So then actually I can launch 14 different asset classes next week. maybe next month, one at a time. But how can we do that? Probably a similar journey that I've already done, basically. Right? How can we do that, and enabling them to do that without having to be a giant behemoth hedge fund or a giant behemoth asset manager with multiple kind of tech people to lean on. So it's giving that advice, that strategic advice, and also introducing them to the right vendors, the right strategic partners that'll suit them. So it might not be the giant tech provider that is great for them if they're running 5 billion, 2 to 5 billion.
Exactly.
They
right.
might, because those giant tech vendors might not want that. They might nowadays actually, because they've already got really big guys and they want to diversify their client set. But
is that the right sort of phase, as you said?
Exactly. And there'll be steps like, maybe don't jump to that now. Maybe wait, and this is the kind of partner for you. So just giving people that advice. Sadly, I've been around long enough that I've made probably as many mistakes as I have to get to this point where I've got a relatively decent idea about how to do that transition. So we've been doing some of that work, and on the transition side, just advising a really, really smart company as well on that energy transition. And they're building kind of the internet protocol for energy trading, which is really exciting actually. And there's a lot of opportunity in the Middle East for that. So some exciting stuff in there. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot going on.
And I think within that, and there's the whole piece around leadership, and leadership's a subject which I am fascinated by. You mentioned there about, alongside the data books, throwing in a few sort of high performance pieces in there as well. I think it's really interesting to look at what great leadership looks like in this space, and because I think when you're talking about in this space, it's actually all the way across, isn't it? So when you're seeing things and you're seeing people who are pioneering, buccaneering, getting these sort of scale strategies in place, showing leadership, what's your crux and your take on building a high performance environment and the leadership it takes to get to that sort of phase?
I think that's a great question actually, and we've got the famous Peter Drucker quote of culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Of course,
It's true. It's so true, right? Everyone uses it all the time, but there's a reason why people say that.
He nailed it with that one.
Yeah, he really did. I hope he got some royalties out of that one. But I think that's setting that from the top, that you want to have a nice place for people to come and work, but it's going to be high performance. I hate losing more than anything in sports, in anything ever. I do every single thing I can to make sure I don't lose. And I want everyone to have that kind of mindset. But at the same time, have a nice environment, right? Have that respectful, nice environment. But I want people that want to be better, want to be quicker, but at the same time, give them the opportunity to do that. Right. I want to have an innovative companies that people want to align to that will come and join. And then you have smarter people than you developing the AI or knowing how to leverage it better than you would have thought in different areas. Absolutely brilliant. You can't have that if you've got a fearful culture. Right. Oh, I don't want to mention that idea to the CEO or COO or CTO. What if it sounds stupid? Do you know what? The number of stupid things I've said in my career, you could write a book on it and read it on holiday.
I think I've read it.
Yeah, exactly, you probably have. So I want an open culture. Suggest these things, right? If you're in a meeting with senior people, say it. And I've given quite a bit of advice to probably younger people as they developed. Just say it, right? If you've got a great idea that you think is great, say it. And it might not be right. Doesn't matter. Because guess what? No one's going to know it if you don't say it. But I want that open environment in a business. That's how you get that high performance. If everyone's saying the new ideas and they're just in a different area, that's brilliant. Because guess what? The CEO is not going to know in your particular department what could make a 10, 20, 30% difference in productivity or improvement or new opportunities. They're running the entire business. So I'd say, don't worry about it, right? We'll all be dead one day. Say what you want to say, but you need that culture to enable people to do that.
Communication's absolutely the heart of it.
It's vital.
But it's a difficult thing as well, because look, there's a few buzzwords as we've spoken through today that sort of pop into my head when you're talking about this, that sort of actually play into conflict in this space in particular. You're talking about highly intelligent people in high pressure, high stakes environment. You're talking about an industry, as we said before, that has a touch of ego about it. And you're talking about a lot of people there who like to win and are used to winning. So within that, ultra competitive and individually competitive within it. Some of the businesses and some areas of the business are very individualistic in terms of what you're looking at, but rely on the team alongside it. So it creates this sort of really interesting dynamic of a high-performance environment, which is all about collaboration in quite an individual game at various stages, whilst also highly competitive. So you can have your sort of biggest rival not outside your industry or in a different company, but actually sat 3 desks away from you at various different stages, and that's where the competition comes in. So I think it's a really interesting melting pot of of challenges that actually make it so extraordinary when you get a high performance environment in this space. And it's usually, as you said, led by people who are really thinking about the culture of what that, of what that looks like and how to get everyone playing together.
Yep.
We're speaking the morning after the night before, which was the Ryder Cup piece,
Indeed.
right? Where you've got the exact classic opposite positions in that. A team that was on paper weaker, winning against a team of individuals at that sort of stage, and whilst it's a bit far-fetched in terms of where it goes, it all comes into play in that sort of thing.
It tends towards the end, Toby, I have to say. It tends towards the end,
But it comes in there to say, look, leadership, I think, is incredibly important in this space, and actually you're dealing with a lot of challenges to get that right.
Yeah, you are, and I think you'll never get it all right. As well, right? You can do as much as you want, set the right culture, get the right technology, have the right people in play. There are always going to be clashes. Markets are always going to move when you're not expecting them to. I mean, that's definitely true. So you're never going to get it all right. But if you can do everything you can to try and make sure that your next decision is a bit better than the last one. That's all you can do.
That's winning.
Right. That's all you can do. That is winning. And you just improve your chances of being better over time. I want people to have that mindset. And at the same time, there's been a lot of discussions recently, which have been brilliant, about that neurodiversity across a business.
Absolutely.
Some roles are going to be super aggressive people, really competitive, and then others actually they'd rather be left on their own, don't want to talk to anybody, but will still produce phenomenal work and outcomes. It's managing that is not easy either, right? So, but recognizing it, even having the conversation, as we have the last few years, I think is really, really important. So it's, as you said, it's a kind of boiling pot of different cultures, people, competitiveness, neurodiversity in there as well. How do you manage it? It's not, as we've seen, it's very difficult. I mean, you look at the market and asset managers, hedge funds, tech, fintech, suddenly they're flying and then they come off. And you see that as it's just a cycle, but it's a constant challenge. But it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun in it, which you've got. And
different stages as well, as you talked about, different stages of growth and different types of people. And actually, if you look at it, you mentioned there about different roles having different personality types. Actually, if you look at it, and I think of, various PMs that I've seen at various different stages, and they've got completely different motivations in some instances, completely different skill sets in other areas, personality types, etc., but they can be successful. And so having that sort of thing of this is the ideal situation, the ideal person, I think it's much more about how do you get that blend and diversity of thought and different people doing it and still allow them to flourish. So I don't think leadership has ever been more complex to get right at the moment. But if you look back to the original fundamentals of what it's about and listening and same way you spoke about right at the very start about listening to your customers. Your customers are also internal as a leader, and making sure that it's listened to them and thinking about how can we make it the environment to make their success inevitable. I think that's a really important aspect to it.
Yeah, I mean, we started talking about technology and obviously that's massively important, but I always come back to saying, is this still a relationships business? Across all of it. And I think having that skill set to be able to relate and build relationships to people from all different types of backgrounds, neurodiversity backgrounds as well. That's massively valuable. Definitely. And people that might be very good at building relationships, you don't see it as a skill. But when you see it being done really badly, it stands out and you realise that's really important. I think that's really important. And that's like within your own business, but with all your strategic partners, with potential clients, with just anybody, right? So I think that relationship thing, it's vital. And when you have it, and you probably have it when you meet somebody, either somebody you're working with or somebody you want to highlight. That was good. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that conversation. You walk out thinking, that's really good. We're going to take action on that. We can really build something with that. And actually, I want to engage that person again. As much technology we talk about, that's a great feeling.
Exactly right.
In a business.
Well, we could be talking for a long, long time, and I know you've got a hard stop. So let's finish off just by talking about you. So lots of interesting things you're going through at the moment. I know you've got a big network in this space. I know there's a lot of people who you've dealt with in the past. But if people are out there and resonating with some of the issues that you've spoken about and some of the areas that you've been talking about, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn an awful lot, as you said. You've seen most of my posts, to be honest.
I know the backstory.
Exactly. So I think, listen, LinkedIn, always happy to engage with people, collaborate. My wife keeps saying I give away way too much free advice nowadays, but you try and help people. Absolutely. I think that's great. And if I can give advice that covers the kind of commercial side of the business, the strategic side, and also the tech side.
Yeah.
That ticks a lot of boxes in running a business nowadays. So, so you're happy to do that. And again, I'm working with the Prospero and giving them strategic advice as they're growing, in helping other hedge funds and asset managers grow. Then happy to do that.
Do you know what? Just as a last point, I went to an event at least 10 years ago. And it was Benny Higgins, who was the CEO of Tesco Bank at the time, who was talking. He was an amazing talk speaker. And he led a line at that stage, which was, it's no longer good enough to have a digital strategy. You need a strategy that's digital. And it kind of ties in with a little bit about what you've been talking about all the way through. And it sort of came into my mind a few times as you were talking through. And I think when you've got someone like you who's been through that sort of journey and thinking about this and having that sort of exposure, it becomes genuinely invaluable. So, Matt, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks so much for doing it.
Really enjoyed it.
Come on again soon.
We'll try. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.